men and women working behind the scene.
Okay. And I also wanted you to put this into proper context. You are all products of the film unit. I know. I mean, Kebari was just talking about competence, which is also very important.
Well, the two of us, he was.
I mean, we are still talking about. Uh, we are still talking about the development of the media.
Thank you very much, Modu Jallo. Yes, we are here. All is set. The Vice President is here. Cabinet ministers are here. Diplomats and other foreign dignitaries are here. Security and service chiefs are all here. Gambians of all walks of life are here. We're waiting for the President's arrival. Then activities proper would start in earnest. Well, at the commentary desk with me here, we have Modu Jallo, GRTS Newsroom, Abdunjai, of course, my Deputy Director General Alhaji Modu Sanyang, Alhaji Modu Juf, Director General Modu Sanyang, and of course also joining us now is the press officer at the Office of the President, Momodu Sedi. Abdunjai, I would hand the mic over to you at least to have a few questions for Mr. Sedi. Mr. Sedi has been in the thick of it since the start. And if you could talk about the film production unit, that was the audiovisual arm of the then Department of State for Broadcasting or Information Services. We were producing films, and of course there was no television, so you can imagine much of our work really stayed in-house. But nonetheless, we were really able to prove ourselves, and we competed at international levels, and the city is here as a living witness what we had in terms of awards and prizes. But CDU was a living witness to much of what had happened in the intervening years since 1994. Probably one or two questions taking him down memory lane, jolting his memory.
Thank you very much, Alhaji Kebadiba. I remember you saying that great events are celebrated in order to acknowledge the efforts of men behind them. Mr. Sedi, you have been there. You have been part of it all. Sure. I mean, you watch these events unfold before your very eyes, and you watch these projects being implemented also before you. Yes. I mean, 17 years after that. How will you reflect on that on that particular day?
Thank you very much, Abdul. 17 years, like Keba has said, is not a long time in history, but quite a significant period in the development of a nation. 1994 changed this country forever, because when the soldiers came to power, they called themselves soldiers with a difference. And indeed, soldiers with a difference, they are. At the time, the mindset of most Gambians was completely different from what it is today. I am a living example of that. I remember the first interview we had with Elizabeth Ohini of the BBC with Chairman Jame at the time at the State House was one interview that is still very vivid in my mind. President Jame made it categorically clear to Elizabeth Ohini at the time that the Gambia was not going to be the bread basket of the West. We would develop agriculture and feed ourselves as a nation. And today, looking back 17 years on, this cannot be
I mean, when he said that, you must have asked yourself,
how was this going to be possible?
I mean, yeah.
Because at the time the mindset was development must come from without. We depended on the West for development. But President Jammeh has changed the thinking in this country.
And then when we are talking about development, I think we pay much attention to infrastructural development alone.
Yes.
But communication is also a very important matter here. I mean, there was no TV station in the Gambia. You were, I mean, as well as Keba Dibatu, and then Alayi Moduju, Alayi Modu Sanyang. You were all part of the film unit.
Yes.
I mean, how has the development been for the media?
It has been phenomenal, to say the least. Because at the time, I remember when I was transferred from the film unit to State House, I only had a VHS camera. This VHS was in such bad shape. Pieces of this camera would fall, and soldiers would pick it and say, I think this is part of your camera. You know, so it was that bad. But nonetheless, despite the inadequacy of equipment, we worked hard to make this revolution a reality. We produced films that to this day are still used by people making documentaries at GRTS on VHS. Because we believed in what President Jammeh was saying. We believed that change was possible and it was going to happen. They say usually, they say that a new idea does not take root by convincing its opponents. Rather, its opponents die and a new generation becomes familiar with it. And that's what President Jammeh has done.
You mean in terms of accepting his ideology?
His philosophy, his ideas, his concept of development.
I was just coming to that. I mean, Alaji Kevadiwa, change was obviously a need. But where was it coming from? I mean, you were there, I was quite young, 1994. But where was it coming from? And the fact that it came from young lieutenants in the Gambia Armed Forces, wasn't that surprising?
Absolutely, nobody knew where it was actually coming from. We saw the need for it because the country was heading somewhere else. And we thought a reversal of the trend was really indeed necessary. But where was it coming? Perhaps it was divine intervention that the soldiers came. They struck on the right hour. You see, if it had taken a little longer, probably you could have seen a really bad type of situation, because it has almost reached the critical.
You mean the political landscape was that disgusting at the time then?
Not only the political, economic, social, put all these things together, the situation was really deteriorating. I think some elements had hijacked the system. And really we needed some sort of divine intervention. So when the soldiers came, well, he said, well, that's it. The circumstances in which government is going to change, well, that's it. But then what was even more important was the mission of the young men and the young men that had taken it upon themselves to change the destiny of this country for good. So the initial anxiety, the doubts, the outright rejections it created initially could be understood. Because nobody seems to know what was actually going to happen, what the end game was going to be. And the assurance from the soldiers was indeed very forthcoming, but was it convincing enough? No. People were not going to take it at face value. But then look at the chain of events that happened then. What happened? There was this outcry. They went to the people. They said, now, we're going back to you people. You're going to tell us what we are supposed to do. We saw the bad